Midfield High looked sick. Dylan Mason stood at the front steps of the school, his backpack slung over one shoulder. The building seemed to sag in a way that made it look like it might throw up at any moment. Its old brick facade was stained, with rust, and the windows always had streaks that never washed off, even during the heaviest of rainstorms. The main door creaked open like it was begging you not to step inside. But today, there was something worse about it. The air was still, too still. The sky above hung heavy, like it was filled with clouds that had forgotten how to rain. The birds that usually filled the morning with their songs were quiet, as if holding their breath. Dylan didn't know how to explain it. He just knew that something in the pit of his stomach turned cold the moment he stepped inside the school's crumbling hallways. He felt watched, not in the regular mundane way, not by cameras or teachers or even the occasional angry-eyed janitor. It felt different. It felt like the walls themselves were breathing, listening. He shook off the unsettling feeling and continued toward room 207. It was the last classroom in the long hallway, tucked away in the corner. He liked the view from the window, the football field, the distant trees. It gave him the illusion that he could be anywhere but here. Inside the classroom, it was eerily quiet. Mr. Harvey, the one teacher Dylan actually liked, wasn't at his desk. That wasn't unusual. He sometimes showed up late. But this time, his desk was completely bare. It wasn't just empty, it was too clean. There were no coffee cups, no scattered papers, no pens or open textbooks. It was as though the desk had been wiped clean, as though no one had ever sat there. On the chalkboard was one word written in pale, almost ghostly white: truth. No one knew who wrote it. The door opened, and the silence broke. All eyes turned to the doorway. A man stood there. He was tall, dressed in a black suit, and his presence seemed to make the already cold room feel even colder. His shoes didn't make a sound on the floor as he stepped inside. His skin was dry, almost parchment-like, and his eyes, Dylan could swear it, were the color of smoke. Dark, shifting, he didn't say a word, he didn't introduce himself. He walked straight to the front of the room and turned to face the class. His eyes scanned the room, as if counting, as if they knew each person in the room better than they knew themselves. His gaze landed on Dylan for a moment too long. Then, finally he spoke. "I am Mr. Morrow, your new instructor." Emma Griggs, ever the one to break the silence with humor, raised her hand. "What happened to Mr. Harvey?" she asked, popping a piece of gum in her mouth like she always did. Mr. Morrow looked at her for a long, unblinking moment. "He has been removed," Mr. Morrow said. The class chuckled nervously. It wasn't a real laugh. The kind of laugh that doesn't reach the eyes. But Mr. Morrow didn't laugh. He walked to the front of the room slowly, his eyes never leaving the students. He placed something on Mr. Harvey's now empty desk, a small, tarnished silver pocket watch. It looked ancient, worn down by the years. "You won't need books," he said. "Not for the kind of truth I teach." A shiver ran down Dylan's spine. Then Mr. Morrow pointed directly at Emma. "Tell us what you were doing last night," he said, his voice low and steady. Emma laughed nervously. "Sleeping?" But Mr. Morrow's eyes didn't change. They didn't blink. "That's not true," Emma frowned. "Okay, creepy, what are you, the thought police?" Mr. Morrow's gaze remained steady, unwavering. "You were crying," he said, his voice colder than before. "You stood by your window. You whispered a boy's name, and you said, 'I can't do this anymore.'" The class went silent. Emma's face went ashen. Her jaw dropped, but no words came out. She stared at Mr. Morrow like he had just peeled her skin off and shown her insides. Then, without a word, she grabbed her bag and walked out of the room. No one stopped her, not even Mr. Morrow. He turned back to the board, drew a small chalk circle beside the word truth, and said, "Let's continue." That night, Dylan couldn't sleep. There was a sound in his room. It wasn't loud, just a soft, rhythmic pulse. It was faint, like something in the dark, something he couldn't place, was trying to remind him that it was there. He checked his desk, his drawers under the bed. He found nothing. But when he finally drifted into an uneasy sleep, the dream came. It was a dream of black suits, glassy eyes, and a chalkboard covered in names written in blood. He saw a door inside the school, one that shouldn't have existed, and through it, Mr. Morrow stood outside, whispering to him through the window, "You already know the truth, Dylan. You've just buried it." Dylan woke up in a cold sweat. The sound had stopped, but the window was open. The next day, Dylan went to the front office to inquire about Mr. Harvey's whereabouts. He waited until the secretary, Miss Trudy, left for a coffee break, then snuck behind the desk. Dylan wasn't the type of student to draw attention to himself, which worked in his favor now. He rifled through the teacher files. Each teacher had a file, but there was nothing for Mr. Harvey. No record, no file. There was also nothing for Mr. Morrow. Not under M, not in faculty, not anywhere. The drawer of the file cabinet smelled faintly of chalk dust and ash. When Dylan turned to leave, he saw Pete, the old janitor, standing in the doorway. "He's back, huh?" Pete muttered, his voice hoarse and distant. Dylan blinked. "Who?" Pete's glazed eyes focused on him. "The one in black." He pointed at Dylan with a shaking finger. "He comes every few years. Different name, same suit, same eyes, same smell." Dylan's stomach tightened. "What do you mean?" Pete just shook his head. "You keep looking, boy, you'll end up on his list." Dylan skipped the rest of his classes. He hid in the library, searching through the yearbooks, page after page, decade after decade, and then he found it. There in the photos was the same man, year after year, decade after decade. Not Mr. Morrow, but the same face, the same dark eyes. In the 70s, he was a history teacher. In the 80s, a science teacher. In the 90s, a coach. And after each appearance, one student vanished. Dylan found his name on a scrap of yellow paper that fell from Mr. Morrow's coat. His name was on the list, not crossed out like the others. Emma, Jason, Kylie, Noah, Dylan. Dylan's name wasn't crossed out. The school got colder. The windows grew darker, the hallways longer. One by one, the students started acting strange. Emma never came back. Jason began muttering to himself in the hallways. Kylie burst into tears during gym class, screaming at nothing. Noah stopped speaking altogether. Dylan tried to warn them. He showed them the yearbooks, the list. But no one believed him. He dreamed of a door, black and wooden, with a single word carved above it. Confess. He found that door in the boiler room. It wasn't supposed to be there. When he opened it, he saw a classroom. It wasn't like any classroom he'd ever been in. There were no windows, only stone walls. Candles floated in the air, their flames flickering without ever going out. And there, at the front of the room, was Mr. Morrow. "Welcome," he said, his voice echoing in the room. "You've made it farther than the others." Dylan's heart pounded. "Who are you?" "I'm the truth beneath the lie," Mr. Morrow said, his smile cold and wide. "I'm the shadow behind your thoughts, the part of you that remembers what you did." Dylan recoiled. "I didn't do anything, Mr. Morrow's smile only widened. "You pushed him," he whispered. Dylan's mind screamed, but the memory surfaced unbidden. The night by the river, his friend, Ben, the argument, the push, the fall. Dylan had buried it, lied about it. "Say it," Mr. Morrow urged, his voice a low whisper. "Confess." The walls pulsed. The room darkened. "I didn't mean to," Dylan whispered. "I didn't know it would." Mr. Morrow's eyes flickered with something that felt like victory. "You lied," he said, his voice echoing through the room. "Now you belong to me." The last thing Dylan saw was the chalkboard, his name finally crossed out. The next day, there was a new student in room 207. He sat in Dylan's seat. Outside, the air felt sick again. And in the front of the room, Mr. Morrow smiled. "Let's begin."